From our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening. We begin the bulletin tonight with some breaking news, and one person has sustained serious injuries following a crash involving a truck and a car at Dulcott. It happened at the intersection of Richmond Road and Boys Street near Frogmore Creek Winery. Drivers are asked to avoid the area until the scene has been cleared, and we'll bring you more information when it comes to hand. A preliminary report into the state budget has been released, revealing a record deficit 4 times higher than predicted. The state government is blaming cost of living relief measures, but the Greens say it's more evidence we can't afford a stadium.
$1.5 billion in the red. A report into the state's finances showing a monster deficit blowout. It's a new record and nearly $1 billion more than expected.
If it wasn't clear before, it's very clear now that the Liberal-Lambie coalition have lost control of the budget.
The overspend includes more money towards the health and education departments, as well as an increase in grants.
There may be some people who are throwing rocks from the sidelines, but I think our community understands that these investments are the right thing to do.
The state government has attributed the blowout to helping out Tasmanians when it comes to cost of living expenses. Liberal MP Felix Ellis says a major factor of the deteriorating budget position was due to the projected cost in compensating victim survivors of child sexual abuse.
The increase in terms of the liability in terms of child sexual abuse went from about $70 million to about $600 million. We don't shy away from the fact that we need to support victims.
We have a treasurer who has no discipline when it comes to managing the budget, and it's Tasmanians that are going to pay for his poor budget mismanagement.
The net debt is sitting at $3.5 billion, but there are some positives. The report showing Tasmania's delivery of key infrastructure is strong, but the Greens aren't budging on their stance when it comes to the proposed AFL stadium at Macquarie Point.
This is a $1 billion stadium. This is a stadium that will bankrupt the state, and it's a stadium that will come at the expense of the health, housing and education investment that Tasmanians need and deserve.
The reality is that our government is backing in the areas that Tasmanians care about.
Perhaps a glimpse into what we can expect when the state budget is released next month.
I think there's a looming budget disaster.
Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmania News.
Former opposition leader Rebecca White and Shadow Treasurer Shane Broad have appeared before a parliamentary inquiry delving into the spirits of the Tasmania saga. They claim during the state election, Labor was kept in the dark over issues with the Devonport Wharf upgrades, along with the decision to ditch the preferred tenderer.
And we were also not told of the significant cost upgrades going, where the wharf infrastructure was going from $90 million up to $375 million.
There appears to have been a breach of the caretaker conventions with the failure to provide a full update to the opposition during the election period.
The board of TT Line is due to front the Public Accounts Committee on September 9. The bitter dispute between Tasmania's peak nursing union and the health department has escalated, with nurses and midwives across the entire public sector set to ramp up industrial action from Monday. Due to unrelenting workloads, a lack of resources and unsafe staffing levels, many claiming they're burnt out.
Staff are feeling pretty dejected, I'd say, in terms of their ongoing calls for support, resources, and obviously recognition for the difficult working environments they're working under.
The ANMF is warning workers could walk off the job if demands aren't met. The Health Department says it's continuing to invest in nurses and midwives, with ongoing recruitment a priority. Clarence Mayor Brendan Blomley has been accused of bullying, sexual harassment and intimidation of several women within the Liberal Party. Under parliamentary privilege, Greens MLC Cassie O'Connor told the Legislative Council there was an active complaint against Mr Blomley and that the Mayor has frequently displayed disrespect, disdain and contempt for women.
A senior Liberal woman has also told me that at an event she was bullied, harassed and intimidated by Mr Blomley to the point she was reduced to tears.
Mr Blomley was contacted but declined to comment. Engines are revving and the rubber burning at Symonds Plains for a winter instalment of the Tasmanian Super Sprint. Although drivers are looking to the skies, the threat of rain doesn't seem to be deterring the diehards.
Tyres have been delivered by the trolley load, the final checks done on the cars, and the Symonds Plains circuit has a light coating of rubber. The stage now set for the Tasmanian Super Sprint, and there's not a bad seat in the house.
We're actually here on holidays from Cairns, but couldn't pass up the opportunity to come out to the track.
The main event doesn't start till tomorrow, but already there's something for everyone.
You're going to do a few of the pit tours and have a look at it.
Any particular driver you're keen to meet?
Probably Brodie Kostecki, I reckon.
Yeah.
This weekend we'll see the 95th Supercars race to the iconic track. Only Wanneroo in Perth has hosted more, but a few drivers have raced more than Mark Winterbottom, about to contest his 600th in a row. He hasn't missed one since 2005.
To be in it for such a long time has been really cool, and that bosses and teams put faith in you that you're the best person for the job is really cool. So, you know, I don't want to win on a milestone weekend. I want to win any weekend.
At the other end of the spectrum is Launceston Super 2 driver Lockie Dalton. Still on cloud 9 after his supercars call up in Sydney. This time in his home track, he's watching from the wings.
Just trying to learn and listen with Cam and Thomas as much as I can. Can always be learning. Just their feedback in general, how the car feels, and their chat to the engineers is super crucial.
And while the drivers are hoping for clear skies so they can keep their noses clean, others are primed for some carnage.
What's been the best part so far?
When they sit on the dirt.
When they go on the dirt?
Yeah.
You like the crashes?
Yeah.
The drivers say the Symonds Plains circuit is a notorious layout. I'm not going to take their word for it. I'm going to go see for myself and my dear friend, Anton Di Pasquale. Hairpin bends at the end of long straights are a test for the pros and for this reporter to keep his lunch down. Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
Police Minister Felix Ellis says Tasmania isn't immune to the increase in reports of knife crime, and the government is looking at ways to crack down on the growing issue. It comes after the Liberal MP met with parents and advocates earlier this week whose son was fatally stabbed in Blackmans Bay 5 years ago and are now calling for tougher laws.
We're very focused on what we can do in terms of powers, penalties and education for our community.
The state government say it will consider the use of metal detector wands. Supported accommodation is being built on the northwest coast for young people at risk of experiencing homelessness. The new Youth to Independence facility in Burnie will provide 25 new units for those aged 16 to 24.
They can live independently in there. It's got a kitchenette, but they will have access to a communal kitchen, to communal lounges, and there'll be youth coaches on site to provide counselling and support.
One of the requirements of being a resident at a Youth to Independence facility that you're furthering your learning or you're working, and Youth to Independence facility residents do TAFE courses as part of what they're required to do.
The facility is expected to open in April next year. Trauma specialists from the mainland are sharing their expertise with the Tasmanian doctors and nurses and the Royal Hobart Hospital. It's part of simulated training funded by the Motor Accidents Insurance Board, aiming to bolster trauma care across the state.
A simple action with an almost devastating ending for Sam and her son.
I sneezed behind the wheel and kind of ended up in the middle of the road,
causing her to crash head-on with another car near Sorrel earlier this year, nearly killing both of them.
It was very scary. I was more worried about Oliver than me. He was my main concern.
And I realised that we're going to crash because the airbags went off and I was behind my mum.
Leaving both Sam and then 7-year-old Ollie in a critical condition.
I suffered quite substantial breaks in feet, both ankles, knee, elbow, rib.
Ollie also sustaining horrific injuries.
He had a metre of aorta taken out, brain bleed, he had a broken leg.
It's been a long and tough road to recovery, but a little easier thanks to the trauma team at the Royal Hobart Hospital.
The trauma team have been absolutely incredible.
Trauma specialists all too familiar with cases like Sam and Ollie's, tending to around 20 major trauma paediatric patients and around 100 minor cases per year.
Motor vehicle accidents are probably the largest group of paediatric traumas that we see.
But the team at RHH are committed to bolstering trauma care to Tasmanians, joining forces with other experts from Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital.
We're all getting together to go through how to best manage these patients. So learning from the Royal Children's Hospital, which is a major trauma centre in Australia.
Using simulation-based practical training to learn vital life-saving actions while under pressure, also helping to foster teamwork and communication skills.
To keep up to date, but also to continue the collaboration and those relationships with our country colleagues working together to deliver the best care.
Giving a new lease on life for trauma survivors like Sam and Ollie.
I'm more grateful for the time I have. Not many people can survive what we did.
Rebecca Gaidaneris, 7 Tasmania News.
The concrete precasting factory used to build parts of the new Bridgewater Bridge is being expanded as part of a decade-long plan to deliver more benefits to the Tasmanian community. Experienced developer David Mariner says the bridge is vital for our state and the facility will allow for new technology and more jobs.
You've got the ability to see new levels of jobs being created in that high-tech space of the, if you like, the carousel systems that will be placing within the factories.
The plan also includes a new trade training facility and the development of a sustainable community in New Norfolk. The RSPCA is calling it mission accomplished with the final 28 dogs rescued from a now closed puppy farm. The Labradoodles about to begin new lives with foster carers in Tasmania, but first stop was a wash and a groom.
Finally getting the treatment they rightfully deserve, a grooming at Wags and Tails. This female shedding her dirty old coat for a new beginning, unsure at first, but wanting to trust humans again.
It does take quite some time because obviously the dogs are starting to shut down on themselves and they're very nervous. But I'm finding as well, as soon as I get that hair off a few of them, that they're coming to life. They're starting to try and play with a little certain things and starting to wag their tails.
Once groomed, a quick bath completes the freshening up job, ensuring the dogs not only smell clean, but also gives them a renewed lease on life. More than 250 Labradoodles were rescued from this farm in northern Tasmania, where they had been kept by a breeder in overcrowded outdoor dog pens with no bedding.
It really marks an incredible achievement for the RSPCA team, and I'd like to pay tribute to my team members who have worked above and beyond to make sure these animals were safely removed from this property.
An investigation into the puppy farm took almost 2 years, but the end result, a welcome relief for all those concerned about animal welfare.
We believe this case will be the catalyst for great change in animal welfare regulations in Tasmania.
A public campaign to raise money to complete the rescue mission raised $300,000 in just 10 days, with $350,000 donated overall. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
The Jack Jumpers have proven it's never too early to get into the festive spirit, now locked in to take part in the Hobart Christmas pageant. The team's mascot and Santa making acquaintances as preparations get underway.
Everything that can bring the children and the parents to this pageant is what we need. And the Jack Jumpers are a big part of Tasmania now.
Jack is one of a kind. He's so lovable and he loves getting into the holiday spirit.
Thousands are expected to line the streets for the 42nd year of the event. And before we head to the break before sport, we have some sad news for you. A 54-year-old woman has died following that crash we reported on earlier at Dulcott. Investigations into the cause of the crash are ongoing and police remain at the scene.
Hello again from Symmons Plains, where the teams are almost done packing up after day one of the Tasmanian Super Sprint. And the notorious circuit's been up to its old tricks during practice this afternoon, giving drivers plenty to think about. David Reynolds, fastest today, recovering from an early session engine misfire and power steering issues to lead the all Chevrolet top 9.
I love the longer sessions for us. In supercars, you don't get a lot of test days, so the longer sessions actually give you more time to plan and try things and re-evaluate things.
Championship leader Will Brown coming in 9th. The action continues tomorrow here at Symmons Plains from 11 a.m. Tim Payne will continue in his newly minted role as Jack Jumper's head of high performance, in addition to his new summer job as Adelaide Strikers head coach. Former Test skipper stepping up on a 2-year deal yesterday after the exit of former Strikers coach Jason Gillespie. The Jack Jumpers telling us the club supports his new gig and it will further enhance the wealth of experience he brings to the club. And Glenorchy couldn't have picked a tougher draw for the first week of the Tasmanian Rugby Union finals. They're coming out on the front foot after a tight loss to Taroona, but will need to drive north and beat Launceston, who are yet to drop a game.
They're renowned for their counter-attack. It's always very strong. They've got very dangerous wingers. Hopefully try and take some sting out of their counter-attack and try and keep the ball in hand and play our game.
Devonport travel down to Taroona for the other Div 1 final.
Good evening. Hobart and Burnie 14. We saw 17 observed at both Launceston and Devonport today. Further out, the state's high was on Flinders Island with 20 degrees, 18 at Friendly Beaches, 17 at St Helens, Strawn 16, King Island and Lowhead 15, 14 the top 4 Smithton and Maria Island, Grove and Ouse 13 and Laiweni reached 11. A thick band of mid to high level cloud moved over the state from the north today. Clouds stretched from central New South Wales to eastern Victoria and down to us here in Tassie. Tomorrow a high will pass across South Australia as a cold front lies along parts of WA. Variable winds 5 to 15 knots, increasing to 30 knots in the south during the morning, with southerly swells at 3 metres in the west. We have a strong wind warning for coastal waters tomorrow to include inland lakes. And also a sheep grazier's warning to those in the southeast. Showery across the south as we welcome the weekend tomorrow. Hobart 14, 13 for Medina and 12 for Oatlands. Wet conditions also in the north, 17 the top for Launceston, 16 for Devonport and 9 for Laiweni. Showers also continued towards the west with Burnie, Strawn and Marrawar all expecting 15 degrees. Showers also filling up the tanks in the east, 16 for St Helens and 15 the maximum in Swansea and Alford. Forecast for Sunday now, light showers, less likely about the north with snow falling to 900 metres about the south. Some parts of the state will wake to areas of frost on Monday. It will otherwise be a fine day, apart from light showers developing about the northwest. Patchy frost about the south and east on Tuesday, with showers continuing about the northwest, extending statewide later. Further north tomorrow, Sydney, Brisbane and Darwin all fine and sunny. 18 and possible storms for Perth, showers for Melbourne, 15's the high. Cloudy in Hobart and Launceston right now and some light rain across Devonport. The weekend officially loading, Murph. Stay dry and enjoy.
Thanks, Kaya. That's all we have for now. Michael Maney in the chair over the weekend. I do hope your footy team wins, unless your team is Essendon, of course. Thanks for joining us. Good night.